Hi there and welcome back to Japan, and thank you so much for tuning in as we do our conclusive review of World Domination by BAND-MAID. Now, obviously, if you are just checking out this video, I will quickly mention first of all that we did do a track by track of every single song in here, reacting to every song on the album. This is me rounding it up and basically rounding it off and giving my final conclusions on what I think of World Domination by BAND-MAID. Now, obviously, to give a little bit of context as well to the album itself, BAND-MAID have been a band who I've been enjoying, and I found out completely through this channel and through our commenters. I've really liked the whole sound of the band. I've liked their sort of hard edge, their rocky style, but the fact that it's not done with a sort of humorless, dark, drabby sort of sense that so many other bands can do. They've got a sense of fun to them. There's real skill in the musicianship. They are absolutely mind-blowingly good band on a technical level. They do great live shows from what we've seen in some of our videos as well, and there's just a great deal of quality to the writing as well. So I mean, all of their songs seem to be based around hooks, and yet they come up with so many great hooks. But this album, World Domination, is delivered at a fair time into their career. Their career might not have been long, but they've been doing a lot of releasing material over that time. Now, with World Domination, obviously, the sense that I've been gathering, and this is the first album I've done a full listen through of theirs for. I will be coming back to check more albums by them in full, but this is one I've listened to all the way through first of all, and so I haven't got quite the context, but what I picked up from the comments is that it's probably their heaviest album. And on top of that is the fact that I've been told that due to the massive pressure on them to do live shows, it is one where they were slightly pressured for time in the studio. Now, does that reflect what is the overall quality? Is it still BAND-MAID? Does it have extra qualities? Does it miss some things? What I would say the most important thing to remember from here is that basically it's an album where almost every single song is worth listening to. I picked out 3, maybe 4 at tops where I would say, yeah, I could get to skipping that after a few listens through. And I have now listened to this album a couple of times, both at home and out and about. And for me, sorry, I've got a squeaky chair still. One day I'll replace the chair, I promise. For me, the overall feeling was that this was an album that for the best part was hard all the way through. So it makes a bit of a difficult listen in that if you were listening to it casually, like in the background, which is not really how you want to listen to fantastic musicians, admittedly that bizarrely would come off as one of the best ways of doing it. If you were listening to this while you were going for a jog or playing video games or doing anything that doesn't require your ears really too much and you just wanted a soundtrack, this would be brilliant. It's hard all the way and it doesn't get boring because each of the songs has its own unique identity for the best part. Some of them slightly merge, but they arrange the album nicely, so there's never really two songs next to each other that directly overlap or seem to be, milking the same theory too much. In fact, the 2 most similar songs on the album are kept very, very distant, which is Domination at track 4 and Dead or Alive at track 13, which I feel have a little bit too much stylistically as a crossover. But basically, the album is well written enough that it can maintain that hard edge without getting boring. Now, that does also mean that you will eventually get to the stuff at the end, beginning, ironically, with Daydreaming, track 11, and then someone told me how to pronounce this and I've got it wrong. I thought it was just a straight-up Japanese pronunciation, so I'm calling it Anemone, but I don't think that's actually how you're supposed to pronounce it. Maybe it's a French word or something. Those 2 tracks are the 2 lighter tracks on the album, and they come, 2 tracks before the end. So you have the whole album, pretty much, 11 tracks, 2 more relaxed, they're not totally soft, but quieter tracks, and then 2 heavier tracks. So there is a little bit of respite towards the end of the album, and obviously the final bonus track, if you've got that, gives a bit of a weird aftertaste as well, but that's kind of fun. So as a full-on hard album, it doesn't stay hard 100% all the way through, but just enough, and gives you a little bit of warning that it's going to be rounding up before it gets there. Now, as a sit-down and listen album, it's a bit more difficult. It depends on what mood you're in, as sit-down and listen albums tend to. It's one of those ones where if you sit down and listen to this all the way through, I get the feeling that if you're really concentrating on it, getting with it, it is going to become tiring. And I'm not just saying that because I'm 33. I think there's never been an age when I've been able to sit and listen to a band who have, a band with the same singer, the same guitar sound most of the time, deliver 11 songs in a row, full-on, or 10 songs in a row, full-on hard, and not get a little bit like, okay, let's shift this up at some point. It is a difficult album to really focus on for its entire length, because I do feel that maybe it goes into that a little bit. But, if you are a sort of a full-on hard rock head, which I, for the best part, can, but if you're perhaps a little bit more than me and you can get through that many hard songs in a row without perhaps needing anything more than just variations in the writing and arrangements of the songs, then yeah, it's a rewarding listen, and like I say, it gives you a nice little warning towards the end that things are going to start changing up, and finishes on a great single with Dice, which is it's not their best single, I wouldn't say, but it's a damn good single nonetheless. So overall, this album is one that is not perfect, but it's damn good, and especially I think the way it stands out most for is we do exist in a time when hard rock albums tend to be, let's admit it, some of the worst albums, because as a general, bands who deliver hard rock, they tend to go one of two ways, which is either they keep on doing songs that are really, 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 really similar and just go, but it's hard, you can rock out, who cares if it's the same, we're not doing EDM, guys. Or they try and mix it up and do some ballads that don't suit them and it gets a little bit wishy-washy. In other words, they're either old school Nickelback or new school Nickelback. So I would like to present, if you're one of those people who's just kind of tired of the Nickelbacky way that things often tend to go, BAND-MAID is a great, great, great alternative. They're a group who are equally hard and, you know, full on to any of their counterparts. They're more like a sort of Foo Fighters sounding band. And for the best part, they're harder than Foo Fighters, because the Foo Fighters do some really, really intense stuff that maybe BAND-MAID wouldn't go into. But as a general, Foo Fighters mix it up more. So BAND-MAID are more full on. If you wanted a full on aggressive from start to finish album, you'd be more lucky with this than you would with most Foo Fighters albums. And I'm a Foo Fighters fan. That said, though, that does also highlight the other problem. You listen to a Foo Fighters album and it tends to be a journey from start to end. This is not so much. This is a full-on, this is a full-on endurance if you can't take it, or a full-on blast of energy if you can. It really depends on your mood very much how you listen to this album, if you can listen to it as an album. It doesn't particularly flow as an album because it's constantly at 11 for the best part, which does make it a little bit difficult to see the album as having any particular start or end. In fact, even from the beginning of the album, they didn't even pick a song that had much of an intro. It just kind of comes in as it intends to continue, with not much in the way of design, shall we say, to the construction, except for the positioning of the quieter songs towards the end, the two that there are. So, yeah. It's hard to draw direct comparisons because taste is a big thing, but I would say that this is, if you're sick of stuff like Nickelback, this is fantastic for you. This will reaffirm your faith in rock music. If you're listening to Foo Fighters, like Foo Fighters' most recent album, I can't remember what it was called, something about gold and whatever, this would make an interesting comparison, because whereas that album eventually goes into some slower stuff and sort of loses its, goes for a more laid-back tempo, this one maintains the energy throughout. So it is a contrast to a lot of the things that are out there, and a lot of the bands who do these high-energy albums tend to run out of imagination long before BAND-MAID do, and very rarely have the musical skill and ingenuity that they have. So I do honestly believe, I say this is the first album of theirs, like I said, I've listened to all the way through, but I do honestly believe that even without hearing their other songs, their other albums, I've heard a lot of their other songs, this album really, really, really has a very definite place in the music world, and I think it would have a definite place in any rock fan's discography? Collection. In your collection, in your big hoard of CDs or music or MP3s or whatever you keep it on, maybe you even have records. Wow, you must have a big house. I think this has a place for most people, if you like rock music. It's not faultless, as I say. It is a bit of a hard album to listen to unless you're really, really in a high energy mood. But it's an album that will certainly give you that high energy if you're ready for it, and will stay pretty relentless and pretty high on quality. It very rarely dips, and like I say, even with all of that hard edge stuff kind of coming in at 11 throughout, I very rarely found myself skipping. When you've got an album which is 14 tracks and you can only really pick out 4 that you'd skip at all, that's fantastic. I tend to have a rule that if any album is less than 1/3 skippable, that's a good album. So, especially coming in at 14 tracks, it's longer than average as well. So anyway, I don't usually do recommendations, but I would recommend this album if you're a rock person, if you just want to hear rock done a bit differently, if you're sick of rock being a bit samey and you just want to hear something technical, interesting, but full of fun. It's a good purchase. So thank you so much again for tuning in to me here in Japan. As always, we'll have a lot more things coming up, but thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments. Get in here, tell me what you think. Have you got a copy of the album? What do you think of it? Do you agree with my comments? Do you listen to it all the way through? Is there a certain mood when you listen to this album? Is it just when you're trying to build shelves and knock hammers into walls? Or is there a particular context when this album works best? Is there sometimes when you don't want to listen to it, sometimes you do? How do you think it stacks up against the other albums by BAND-MAID that I will be listening to in the coming months? Let me know. And for now, from Japan, thank you and ciao ciao.